Look at this. Oop, I'm dropping stuff. I mean, this takes me back to my childhood. Today we are making some fun treats for the holidays. I've got a few new ones and some old classics that I've been making for a long time. I love holiday treats. I think it's so fun to share them and to receive them. It's so neat to see what people come up with and what their go-to treat is for the holidays. Well, I am so glad that you're here with me today. If we haven't met, my name is Ange and this is the Menu Made Kitchen. All right, first up, we've got slow cooker Mexican hot chocolate. You guys, this is seriously the best hot cocoa recipe. So I'm gonna start by heating up my milk. I've got a pot here and I'm gonna add 2.5 cups of milk. I use 2%, but you can do 1% or whole milk. And then I'm gonna do 1 quart of half and half, or you can do 4 cups. And basically we just wanna heat up the milk. I don't wanna bring this to a boil. You just want it to be nice and hot so that when we add it to the chocolate, it melts the chocolate quickly. So to my slow cooker here, I'm gonna add in 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips and 1 cup of dark chocolate chips. And I like to use Ghirardelli. I feel like if you're gonna take the time to make homemade hot chocolate, then use the best chocolate. So we'll go ahead and add that hot milk over the chocolate chips. And I'm just gonna stir this until all of the chips are melted and you just have a nice creamy mixture. All right, and next up, I've got some sweetened condensed milk. I'm actually only gonna use half this can. This is a 14-ounce can. If you want it more sweet, you can definitely add more or use less if you want it less sweet, but I felt like the half a can was perfect for this recipe. And then we're gonna add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I'm gonna add in 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. The almond extract is really what gives it kind of that Mexican flavor. It's very subtle, but it's so delicious. And then I'll add in a couple of cinnamon sticks, and then 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder and about 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. So we'll just give this a whisk until it's combined, and then I'll pop the lid on. I'll set the slow cooker to low, and then once it's hot, it is ready to serve. I love to make a batch of this and just put it out on the counter. I'll put the slow cooker on warm. I'll set out some cups, some marshmallows, maybe a can of whipped cream. And then throughout the day, people can just serve themselves. It's great for snowy days or lazy Sunday afternoon. Okay, we're gonna try this. Oh my gosh. This is like something you would get at a fancy, fancy restaurant. This is so creamy and silky and rich, but not overly sweet. I love that little bit of kick of chili powder. You can taste the cinnamon, and the almond extract is very, very subtle, but I really feel like it gives it that Mexican spice flavor. Okay, I'm gonna have my husband try this one. He's eating the marshmallows. So these aren't the packets, like this is the homemade real deal. What do you think?
I think it tastes, am I supposed to be talking to the camera? It tastes
you are right
really
there
good.
at that little green thing.
It really tastes cocoa-y. One of these little sticks.
They're cinnamon sticks, you can't eat those.
That's good, can I keep it?
You can keep it.
Ah,
yay,
thank you.
all right. This is one of my favorite cookies that I have to have during this time of year. Soft and chewy ginger cookies. They are so, so good. So in a bowl here, I'm gonna add in 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm gonna also add in 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking soda. I've got 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then we've got some spices, 1 1/2 teaspoons of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground allspice, 1/2 teaspoon of ground mustard, and 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, or you can do some black pepper. We're just gonna give that a whisk and set it aside while we do the wet ingredients. So in a bowl here, I've got 3/4 cup or 1 1/2 sticks of salted or unsalted softened butter, and then I've got 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. We're gonna do 1/4 cup of firmly packed brown sugar, and then I'm just gonna use my hand mixer to kind of mix this up until it's somewhat creamy. So once that's mixed up, we're gonna add in 1 egg yolk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So the egg yolk really gives this cookie that chewy texture. If I did 1 whole egg, they would be more cakey. So if you want the kind of chewy, soft texture, the egg yolk will do that for you. And then we've got some unsulfurated molasses here. I'm gonna add in 1/2 cup. And then we'll go ahead and give this another whisk. I love this because the color starts looking so rich and delicious. I get super excited when I get to this step because that means I get closer to being able to eat these cookies. Okay, so then we're gonna add the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients here. And this is gonna turn out really thick. So don't be alarmed, like this is the way that it's supposed to be. You kind of want almost like a soft dough texture. So we'll just use our hand mixer to mix it up until all of the dough comes together. All right, so I will say the only bummer thing about this recipe is you do have to let the dough chill for about 30 minutes in the refrigerator, or you can do like 15 minutes in the freezer, but this will just make it so much easier to roll out into balls when you have to put this together. So I've got a small cookie scoop here. You want like 1-inch size balls, and I'm just going to roll it and then we'll place it into a bowl. I've got some fine sugar here. I also use coarse sugar sometimes. It really just depends on what I have on hand, but just make sure to coat each ball and then we'll place them on our cookie sheet here. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up with the rest of these and then we can get these into the oven. Okay, so my oven is set at 375 degrees. I'm just gonna pop these in and we're gonna bake them about 10 to 12 minutes until they're set and just lightly golden around the edges. All right, these are cooled and they are ready for me to taste. I remember when I was younger, like ginger snap cookies in the box were really popular, but I didn't like those because they were super crunchy. I love that these are like chewy and soft and they're so buttery. Look at this. They're just like, oh. Oh my gosh. These would be so good with a little bit of vanilla ice cream sandwiched between the two. You can even dip like half of the cookie in white chocolate. That would be delicious. And they're also a perfect gift. They stack nicely. You can wrap them in a little bit of like a Christmas clear paper with a bow around it. So good. Okay, so we're going to start with the marshmallows and the butter. I have a 16-ounce package of large marshmallows here. I'm just going to add them to my nonstick pan. And then I've got a stick and a half of butter. I'm just going to add that in. Okay, so I've actually got this on about medium low, and right now I just want to get the butter melted so I can start incorporating it with the marshmallows. You pretty much want to stir this constantly once it starts melting and coming together. But at this point, my pan is still heating up. As you can see, we're getting somewhere. The marshmallows are starting to melt. Our marshmallows and butter, everything is melted. And I'm just gonna turn off the heat, and then we're gonna add in our food coloring. So I'm gonna start with about 2 teaspoons. It's gonna kind of bubble a little bit because I'm putting that cold food coloring in with the hot marshmallows. So you can really just add as little or as much food coloring as you want. I like to go for kind of that darker green color. I just think it looks so pretty. Oh my gosh, you guys, I almost forgot. I'm gonna add just a little bit of vanilla extract just because I think it just adds such a nice flavor. So let's stir that in. Okay, now we're gonna go to the cornflakes. So it got super sunny in here all of a sudden. It's only 9:30 in the morning, so the sun is peeking through my window. So I've got 9 cups of cornflakes, or you can use a 12-ounce, I believe it was a 12-ounce box of cornflakes. So now I'm gonna pour the marshmallow mixture over my cornflakes and just start folding it together until all of the cornflakes are coated. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I'm gonna move us out of the sun so you can see how we put this together. All right, I've got a little bit of butter here, and I'm just gonna take my hands and just coat my plate here. That way our wreath doesn't stick to the plate when we go to slice it. So it's just a really thin layer. That is perfect. And then I'm actually gonna put some butter on my hands as well. That way the cornflakes don't stick to my fingers while we're trying to shape it. It's going to seem like your plate's too small, but you kind of want a smaller plate for this so that the wreath looks full and it really stands out. It already looks so pretty. I love it. Okay, I've got my hands nice and coated, and then I'm just going to go through and kind of create a little hole in the center like this. And then you basically just want to bring it together around the edges of the plate. And it's still really warm right now, so it's the perfect time to shape and mold this. Move some of those over there. Isn't it so pretty? I just love it. I remember taking this to my husband's family's Christmas years ago. I don't even know if we were married yet. And I walk in with this wreath, and I was so proud of it. I think it was the first time that I had made it. And I walk in, and my husband's mom was like, "What do you got there, guacamole dip?" I'm like, oh my word, it's a wreath. Doesn't it look like a wreath? So I'm gonna add some candies to the top, these little red cinnamons to make it look like holly, and pretty much that's it. Sometimes I fill the center with some like Christmas M&Ms or any kind of Christmas candy really, so it just looks pretty. All right, so here's our little cinnamon candies. I remember as a kid, I loved doing this part. I just thought it was so fun. And it just adds a nice pop of color. I usually do like 3. This is such an easy recipe to throw together last minute too. So if you are struggling to know what to make for a party, or if you're, you know, super busy and you just don't have time to do a whole bunch, this is always such a great thing to share at a Christmas party, because everyone is kind of drawn to it because it's so beautiful and it tastes delicious. It's like, I think it's even better than Rice Krispie treats personally. Okay, look at this. Oop, I'm dropping stuff. All right. This flavor, I mean, this takes me back to my childhood. It is so, so delicious. Like, this will be a new favorite for you if you have not tried the cornflake Christmas wreath. I'm telling you, if you make this, everyone will have so much fun talking about it. So it's a good conversational piece. So if you're at like one of those like awkward Christmas parties, bring a wreath. That'll get the conversation going. So good. I am so excited for you to try this Ritz cracker Christmas crack. The title describes it all. So we're gonna start by adding some butter to my small pan here. I've got this on medium heat. I'm gonna add 2 sticks of butter. I just cube this up because it melts a whole lot faster than sticking in a whole stick of butter. And then I've got a whole cup of brown sugar. So we're gonna melt this down and bring it to kind of a low boil. And we're gonna, once it's to a boil, we're gonna cook it for about 3 to 5 minutes. You want the mixture to become nice and dark and kind of thick. So we'll get this melted, and while this happens, I'm gonna get my Ritz crackers ready. Okay, so I have a large sheet pan. I believe this is an 11 by 17, and I've lined it with foil. And I'm just gonna spray it generously with nonstick cooking spray, like a lot of spray, because I wanna make sure the toffee doesn't stick and I can kind of break it apart easily. And then I'm gonna use almost 2 packages of Ritz crackers. I think there'll be like 3 or 4 left, unless I can kind of squeeze them on here. So I'm gonna get this sprayed and get the crackers on here, and then we'll go back to the butter and check on that. Okay, as you can see, it's just starting to come to a boil. Okay, so at this point, I'm just gonna leave this alone, and I want this to boil for about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, kind of depending on how well it thickens, and it's gonna get kind of that dark amber color. toffee is done, and it basically just looks like caramel. So you can see it's kind of that dark amber color. And then we're just gonna pour this right over the crackers. Just, you know, pour it as evenly as possible, and then we can always spread it out with a spatula if we need to. But I just try to go over all the crackers. I don't know why this part to me is so fun. And it just looks so, so good. It's like that homemade caramel. Yum. So this actually sets up pretty quickly, so we want to make sure to get it spread quickly. You don't want it to set too long. And I'm just going to gently spread out the caramel. I have my oven on at 400 degrees, and we're going to pop this in the oven for just about 4 or 5 minutes, not too long at all, and it's just going to kind of set up a little bit, and then we can add our chocolate chips. All right, does that look so good already? This just came out of the oven. You can see it's kind of bubbling around the edges. So typically people put chocolate chips over the top, and I am going to do that, but I'm also going to do some peanut butter chips. I thought that that would be really yummy. So I'm just going to sprinkle the chips right over the top of this while it's still nice and hot, and we'll just let it set to soften the chips, and then we can spread it out. Okay, I actually popped this back into the oven. I turned it off just to kind of soften the chocolate chips a little bit more. That way I could spread them really easily. So you can see here, they're all melted, and you just want to spread the top of these crackers with all of this chocolate and peanut butter. This is optional, but I'm going to add some toasted chopped pecans. I just think it gives it a really nice flavor, and I like the crunch on top. So I'll just sprinkle this over the top of the chocolate and the peanut butter. You could even do like almonds or like toasted hazelnuts chopped up would be really yummy. Perfect. I just think that looks so fun. It's definitely Christmassy. Okay, so I'm gonna let this sit out at room temperature here on the counter for about 30 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna pop it into the refrigerator or the freezer. I haven't decided yet. Depends on how much time I have. And then once it's completely cooled and set, then I can go in and break it up. All right, check this out. I put this in the freezer, and I had to run an errand into town, so this has been in the freezer for about an hour and a half. It's so cold. So let's cross our fingers that it comes off of the foil. It came off the pan, so that's a good sign. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of peel the foil back. Oh yeah, that'll come off nicely. You can see. So make sure to spray this super, super well. Okay, I'm going to pull this foil off, and then we'll get it broken up. You've got like your one huge sheet here, and I'm just going to go in and just start breaking it apart, just like that. So you've got like kind of some big pieces, some small pieces. So I'm going to get this broken up. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. Come on now. So I've actually never made this with the Ritz crackers. I've always done saltines. These Ritz crackers, like that buttery, tender cracker. Oh my gosh. And I added the peanut butter chips for the first time. I've never done that either. I always do chocolate chips. It's like Reese's peanut butter cup with like a buttery cookie bottom. You guys, this is why they call it Christmas crack. It is seriously crack. Like another easy thing to make, to take to a party. People will go nuts for this. Well, I hope that you enjoyed all of these fun treats today and you feel inspired to try something new, and we will see you next time.